Welcome to our Alumni Nutrition Talks series, a celebration of 40 years of training nutritional therapists. I'm Heather Rosa, the Dean, and I hope you enjoy this presentation.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here on behalf of Iron to talk about fatigue. Or you could say, am I tired all the time? You'll probably ask yourself, are your energy levels all over the place? Are you tired when you should be alert? For example, first thing in the morning, a lot of people just can't get out of bed. Or do you have constant energy dips during the afternoon? So, tiredness and fatigue are two of the most often recorded symptoms that clients tell me in my consultations. And it's also one of the most frequent reasons for seeing a doctor. This may be warranted if there is a serious underlying condition, and blood tests can be done to check for anemia, B12 deficiency, or an infection. So there is a difference between just plain tiredness. This is what we experience when we've had a busy day, family and work demands, poor sleep. But fatigue is when tiredness becomes overwhelming and isn't relieved by sleep and rest. But whichever definition you choose about the way you feel, they both share the symptoms of having low energy. In this talk, I shall be outlining the symptoms to consider, possible underlying causes, and then explain how you can make positive changes to regain your vitality. The main topics I will be covering is why you may be feeling tired all the time, what is draining your energy, and how nutrition and lifestyle changes can bring you back into balance. My name is Lorna Rhodes. I qualified as a nutritional therapist from the renowned Institute of Optimum Nutrition 10 years ago. I work with people of all ages, both men and women, who are looking for support with a myriad of conditions, often with a common theme of feeling lack of energy, or as some women say, I've lost my mojo. Naturally, there are times of life that will influence our ability to have good energy levels, and certainly later in life, the body is less able to make energy. However, there's always a solution for every individual. It's just a matter of finding out why the person is constantly tired. I'm going to give you some main factors for low energy, then explain natural ways to feel great again. And the causes can vary widely. First of all, medical, and this is when there is unrelenting exhaustion and may be a sign of an underlying issue such as thyroid disorder, heart disease, or diabetes, which is also associated with blood sugar dysregulation. Lifestyle related includes lack of sleep and exercise, but alcohol or drugs may also be the problem. By far, the main reason for low energy is due to poor diet and nutrient deficiencies. But also, within this category is stress, the curse of 21st century living. I'll start with sleep, and this may seem obvious, but many people simply do not go to bed early enough and get 7 to 8 hours each night. So I blame it on Netflix, staying up too late watching TV, younger people gaming, working late at night, or looking after a baby. And I will note that working late on a computer is never a good idea, as exposure to the screen can disturb natural sleep-wake pattern called the circadian rhythm. As humans, we evolved to sleep when it is dark and wake with sunrise. Of course, we don't do that now. We have electricity, and we've lost these natural cues. And with the rise in the use of electronic devices, it's made the situation worse, with many people staying up late and using them for all sorts of reasons. Poor sleep may also cause by drinking alcohol, taking certain medications, mood, or hormonal imbalance, trauma, pain, digestive disorders, in particular acid reflux, which is one of a very often discussed symptom in my clinic. And of course, normal family life is disruptive with infants and children, especially if they're not well. So it is important to identify the reason before trying to find a solution. Generally, practicing relaxation techniques can help you unwind before bedtime, such as meditation, a warm bath, reading, or listening to some calming music. And some people use apps. There's one in particular called Calm that people have found very beneficial. And plus, using essential oils such as lavender is known to induce sleep. So, my first tip relates to diet. And this includes avoiding sugary and carb heavy meals before bed, as they can be too energizing and keep you up. Limit caffeine to early in the day, as research has shown that caffeine can negatively impact sleep. And coming back to using electronic devices, blue light, and this is why I suggest turning computers off at night and not using them just before bed. And this is really especially important for teenagers who are wedded to their smartphones. And of course, you mustn't have electronic devices in the bedroom. But the next major thing is stress, and that is actually a major disruptor of sleep. So even when you think you're not stressed, there can be underlying anxiety, whether it's emotional, work-related, relationship problems, a poorly child, financial worries, brain chemistry irregularities, diet and lifestyle habits, and poor gut health. These are some of the many examples why sleep might not come easily, or you lie awake half the night. And I do have a lot of clients, especially menopausal women, who report being awake at night and not getting back to sleep for some hours, or waking early in the morning, like 4 or 5 o'clock, and not getting back to sleep. So poor sleep and stress are definitely connected, and stress is a huge drain on our energy. You wake unrefreshed and find it hard to get through the day without reaching for stimulants such as sugary food or coffee. And constant stress will impact something called the HPA axis, which I will mention later. So how do we combat stress? Well, diet or has already been mentioned, and some foods can put a strain on the body, such as alcohol, caffeine, and processed foods, all of which have no nutritional value and can lead to dysregulation of many processes in the body. Following a healthy diet and prioritizing foods linked to lower stress and anxiety levels, such as fish, berries, legumes, and leafy greens. And these could be effective ways to improve your resilience to stress. Each of these foods contain important nutrients that support mental health and heart health, both of which can suffer with prolonged stress. And this brings us to depression, because this often occurs when life becomes too overwhelming, stress unbearable, and for some people, it does result in depression. It's usually the tipping point when people go to see the doctor. In some circumstances, antidepressants may be helpful, but for many people, getting support with lifestyle improvements, especially improving sleep and diet, can lessen the need for medication. However, for some people, they have a medical problem resulting in chronic and/or constant pain that drains energy and leads to poor sleep and depression. When people suffer from depression, we find that there's often imbalances with our neurotransmitters. These are chemical messages within the brain and can be associated with some nutritional deficiencies, especially omega-3 fatty acids derived from oily fish and B vitamins. And that deficiency can lead to poor signaling and therefore problems within the brain. Another reason for depression can be hormonal imbalances, especially in women going through the menopause. In this case, I found that women go to the doctor expressing their fatigue and end up on antidepressants. If only more care could be given to find the reason and nutritional support given, this could be avoided. Because once on antidepressants, it's hard to come off, and then also having to contend with the unwanted side effects. Surely it's better to support the body with good diet to provide the ingredients to restore energy levels rather than resort to medications. A further link to depression can also be caused by lack of sunlight, which is why so many people of all ages have low energy during the winter. Keeping vitamin D levels optimal all year round is important, and it's easy to have it checked with a simple blood test, which a GP can do, or there are lots of home tests available. In addition, there is a link between low vitamin D and the functioning of the immune system, which can partly explain why we get more colds during the winter months. Natural remedies for depression will be outlined towards the end of this talk, as they are relevant to the most causes of tiredness and low energy. The next most important consideration is blood sugar imbalance. And as you will get to understand, it may not be simply one thing that causes low energy. So I'm going to explain the other major reasons. I see blood sugar imbalance all the time, mostly due to diet or even going long periods without food. When blood sugar levels dip, it can cause many problems, including lying awake in the early hours, another reason for poor sleep, craving sweets, starches and stimulants, binge eating and uncontrolled eating, excessive appetite, sleep in the afternoon, regular headaches, irritability and moodiness, and yes, feeling tired. So what is blood sugar imbalance? When we eat sugary foods and a diet high in carbohydrates, which is typical of a Western diet, they directly contribute to a peak in blood sugar levels. The body has mechanisms to transport glucose to our cells to be used for energy, but they only need so much, so the excess blood sugar is taken back by the blood to the liver, where it is converted into fat. But after a peak, there's always a fall, and this can lead to all symptoms described relating to tiredness. So then the cycle starts again with a craving for those foods to give a quick fix of sugar, which is why for some people they just can't resist sweet, starchy foods. Whilst carbohydrates are the body's preferred source of fuel, it is important to eat the right kind of carbohydrates. Simple sugars are often found in processed foods and can be hidden in the list of ingredients with various strange names that all relate to sugar. So learn to read labels so that you can assess just how much sugar you're consuming. So while somebody may be eating carbohydrate-rich foods, it often comes at the expense of including a low intake of good quality lean protein, fruit, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, all of which provide rich sources of vitamins, minerals, all needed for energy production. And not all carbs are bad. Complex carbohydrates include wholemeal bread, brown basmati rice, whole grain pasta, lentils, quinoa, and oats, for examples. These are called complex as they take longer to break down in the body during digestion and therefore releasing glucose at a slower pace. This helps not only to keep you satisfied for longer, but prevents sharp peaks of insulin. Insulin is needed to transport the glucose to the cells for energy, but excessive carbs and continual intake, which happens with grazing and snacking throughout the day, puts a lot of demand on the pancreas to release insulin, which then becomes less able to produce the insulin, and furthermore, the receptors on the cells become resistant to the continuous demand to take in glucose. This resistance eventually can lead to type 2 diabetes. And we mustn't forget other sources of energy. That includes proteins and fats. Protein is found in meats, fish, lentils, beans, dairy, soya, and tofu, and should be eaten daily, preferably with each meal. As well as being used for energy, it almost makes us feel full for longer, which is important to prevent the urge to snack and graze. And fats provide energy, but are generally eaten in smaller amounts. As well as a source of energy, they are important for the health of all the cells in our body. And this is so nutrients can pass through the cell membrane, which is actually made up of a variety of different fats, and utilized in the production of energy. When talking about healthy fats, this includes the types found in oily fish, olive oil, nuts, seeds, and avocados. Let me explain this further. To create energy in our cells, it is not just glucose that is needed. The process occurs within almost every cell of the body in tiny, tiny cells called mitochondria. These are often referred to as our battery packs. We have trillions of them within the body, and to allow them to make energy in a form called ATP, they need other cofactors, which is where the vitamins and minerals come into play. Cofactors help the process to work. So now you will understand how deficiencies, for example, B12 and iron, can contribute to tiredness. Cofactors can also include the B vitamins, carnitine, which we get from meat, zinc, selenium, CoQ10, antioxidants such as alpha-lipoic acid, glutathione, and of course all the wonderful polyphenols we get from fruit and veggies. Dysfunction of the mitochondria can contribute to chronic disease, which can further result in low energy. Glucose does not have to be the only fuel source for the mitochondria, as fat can also be broken down to used to create ATP. Mitochondria are a key to good health, as they have many more functions in the body, but these are complex, and poor function goes far beyond fatigue. It is also linked to many degenerative diseases, but we're not going to discuss them today. The most important take-home message is to nourish the mitochondria to enable them to produce the energy we need with a healthy, varied diet. So let's just run down specific foods, because a good diet means different things to different people, but we need foods rich in magnesium, found in green leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds. And actually, I find with a lot of my clients, generally speaking, insufficient green leafy vegetables feature in their food diaries. Foods rich in iron, which can be grass-fed meat, eggs and lentils. Foods rich in alpha-lipoic acid are beetroot, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, carrots, organ meat, and tomatoes. And the B vitamins are found especially in meats, nuts, organ meats, and seeds. Carnitine is a rather unusual one, but we find that in asparagus, beef, and chicken. And foods rich in CoQ10, such as broccoli, cauliflower, fish, lentils, meat again, soybeans, spinach, sesame seeds, and plenty of colourful vegetables and fruits for lots of the antioxidants and phytonutrients, especially carotenoids, resveratrol, quercetin, proanthocyanins. And some of these do include almonds, apricots, asparagus, avocado, bananas, beet. I think you're going to get the message that we do need to eat a big variety of vegetables, and not forgetting spices and herbs, especially basil and turmeric. So the list of these suggested foods seems to be the blueprint for a basis of a healthy diet that delivers the essential nutrients for energy. And the key message is a diet that includes plenty of colourful fruits and vegetables. This is often referred by nutritional therapists as the rainbow diet, and often talked about on the internet and on Instagram. And this is a very good way of getting children to get interested and introducing them to a wider variety by talking about the rainbow foods. We should aim to eat more than 30 different plant-based foods a week, rather than relying on supplements to ensure the body is getting all the nutrients it needs. Now, 30 different plants may sound quite a lot, but if you're, for example, making smoothies, you could easily introduce 3 or 4 different fruits and vegetables. And one of my favourite ways of introducing more plants into the diet is making homemade vegetable soup. So a soup could easily include 4, 5, 6 different vegetables. And of course, You can vary all the vegetables and make different types of soups. I'm a big soup maker, and I do encourage people to make soup for lunch. However, it needs to be pointed out that as we age, the body has diminishing ability to make CoQ10 enzyme. And this is one of the reasons for using a supplement, not just for energy, but it's needed for heart health as well. And furthermore, in older people, many of whom are taking statins, which depletes this enzyme, and they then feel tired when they're on this medication. But as we get older, we make less. Therefore, I would always say anybody over the age of 40 would be well to take CoQ10 as a supplement. There is one nutrient deficiency that is very relevant to low energy, and that's B12. Now, throughout this talk, you will have gathered I've been recommending what constitutes a good diet. However, sometimes a nutritional deficiency can occur, contributing to fatigue that has nothing to do with how much you're eating, but it's all to do with how much you're absorbing. Now, B12 is necessary for a healthy nervous system, and also for the formation of red blood cells, because red blood cells carry oxygen around the body, which is needed to produce energy. Therefore, we have this situation where there's a nutritional deficiency, but maybe an absorption problem. So I'm going to just explain this very quickly. We find B12 in animal protein, and it is released in the stomach by the action of gastric acid. It is then bound to a protein to allow it to be absorbed. However, as we age, we make less stomach acid. And so often we see in the elderly the fatigue, which is due to the B12 deficiency. And this is all part and parcel of our gut health, which is a really, really big subject. And I haven't got time to talk about the whole of that today. But malabsorption issues in the gut can lead to nutrient deficiencies, not just B12. Signs of a deficiency can include pale skin, fatigue and weakness, constipation and diarrhea, loss of appetite, nerve issues, hormonal and mood imbalances, and reduced immunity, and of course, many, many other symptoms. So, what causes malabsorption? As I say, the topic of gut health is huge for today's talk, but I will point out that gut health and energy are linked by something called the gut-brain axis. Optimal health of the gut influences motility, nutrient delivery, and microbial balance. When the gut is healthy, it bears an influence on the neurotransmitters in the brain associated with stress, anxiety, and mood. And this is why the gut is often called the second brain. One observed problem I often see in clients is an imbalance of gut bacteria, a significant factor in fatigue and many other symptoms. And you know what? This is often the result of poor diet with insufficient fiber. One of the main recommendations I make to support good gut function is to follow an anti-inflammatory diet. I often talk about this as being the most fundamental strategy for good health and energy. So first of all, what not to eat? Anything you may be intolerant to, a diet with trans or oxidized fats found in fast and processed foods, excess omega-6 fats found in processed foods, excess sugar and refined starch, and excess alcohol. Okay, so here's what to eat. Omega-3 fatty acids found in fatty fish, flax seeds, and walnuts, monounsaturated fats such as olive oil, colourful fruits and vegetables, spices such as ginger and turmeric, green tea, and of course, looking after the microbiome in lots of other ways. I'm now going to talk about the thyroid, which is a major reason why people, often women, are tired. When the thyroid is not working optimally, fatigue is a major symptom, but it can also include moodiness, weight gain, vision problems, changes in body temperature, thinning hair, dry skin, just to name a few symptoms. There's quite a lot going on with dysfunctional thyroid. A thyroid disorder can show up in many different forms because the thyroid gland is considered to be the master gland, as it secretes hormones that impacts on almost every bodily function. But for the purpose of this talk, I'm just going to focus on it controlling your metabolic rate and energy levels. So what causes thyroid disorder? Hormonal imbalance, and this happens particularly during the menopause period. I find many clients discovering this problem when hormone levels are changing. Unfortunately, the symptoms are often blamed just on the menopause, when it is in fact the thyroid out of kilter, and this can be exacerbated by stress and diet. And there is a big link between the hormonal changes with, that is, estrogen and progesterone and thyroid hormones. Other elements that can impact on thyroid disorder include food intolerance, especially to gluten and dairy, exposure to toxins, and a nutrient deficiency of iodine or selenium. And here's the problem with testing. I feel compelled to share this with you, as I've had so many clients that have been told that their thyroid was okay, but in fact they have not been properly screened. The NHS tends to only look at two markers: TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone, and T4. What they fail to look at is at T3. And why is this important? Well, T4 is not the active part of the thyroid hormone synthesis. It needs to be converted into the active hormone T3 so the body can use it, and this conversion takes place mainly in the liver. And this process is also dependent on an enzyme which contains selenium. So now that you will understand how a simple deficiency of just one nutrient can impair T3 production and lead to all the symptoms of an underactive thyroid, including tiredness and lack of energy. But I will also say that this deficiency of selenium is quite widespread and has become more so over the years because of acid rain impacting on the amount of selenium found in our food. So while selenium is taken up by our plants from the soil, science has found that the soil now contains less selenium than it did perhaps 50 years ago. So this is an interesting comparison to make. Was there so much thyroid dysfunction 50 years ago? Probably not. But there certainly is a lot of it in today's world. So this is one of the situations when we have the accurate blood markers with a proper screening, and we can understand the cause of fatigue and then apply nutrition, or in this instance, when we're talking about selenium, to use a supplement to support the whole process. However, this is not the only problem that can occur with conversion of T4 to T3. If the cell membranes are damaged from inflammatory cytokines, it will impair the body's ability to perform the conversion and to take in the active hormone. So I'm going to talk about the other problem. When cortisol levels are high, it will decrease TSH and also suppress the conversion of T4 to T3. So quickly, how to support your thyroid? As I've said, it's important to have a proper screening, and that actually includes the antibodies. If these are raised, then Hashimoto's is the problem. It's an autoimmune condition, and it will impact thyroid health, eventually leading to hypothyroidism. There are some ways to help you recover from thyroid dysfunction, and that is to have your iodine and selenium levels checked, and then include more foods with the sources of both, or take supplements. Also, detoxing your body from heavy metals, and this means supporting liver function. I would suggest using botanicals such as milk thistle, dandelion, and turmeric. Furthermore, adjusting your diet to lower carbohydrate intake, but include plenty of lean protein, healthy fat sources, avocado, oily fish, chia, and flax seeds. So I talked about cortisol, and that means that we're going to talk about the adrenals today. So cortisol is produced from the adrenal glands. These are two little tiny glands that sit on top of the kidneys and are responsible for producing lots of different hormones, one of which is cortisol, and this takes us back to stress. So excess stress can lead to adrenal fatigue, and this is caused by hormonal imbalances, similar how thyroid disease develops. The adrenals release more than 50 different hormones, including energy-regulating hormones, cortisol, and adrenaline. So when you are under a high amount of stress due to emotional, physical, and mental circumstances, which is common in almost everyone these days, your adrenals suffer and fatigue kicks in. The mechanism here is that when you are stressed, cortisol activates signaling in the body to enter into a heightened state of emergency. This is often called the sympathetic mode. High cortisol levels are intended to be short-term and not remain high. In other words, we get over the trigger and then we return to the parasympathetic mode. However, when cortisol stays high, it interferes with many functions in our body, including the immune function, digestion, sleep, and even the ability to produce other essential hormones, including thyroid. The result of this in the long term is the adrenals have decreased ability to produce cortisol and instead produce extra adrenaline, causing symptoms of feeling irritable, shaky, lightheaded, and anxious. Adrenal fatigue over time can result in pure exhaustion. So I mentioned the HPA axis earlier. So when people suffer with adrenal fatigue, there may be nothing to do with the adrenals as such. It's actually how the brain is interpreting stress. This includes sleep disruption, blood sugar dysregulation, perceived stress, and inflammation. So we have a two-way communication between the brain and the adrenals, and it's called the HPA axis. This is the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and the adrenals. So we can support the adrenals with diet, and this takes us back to blood sugar balance, which could be just purely about the timing of having your meals. And how much we eat, which can regulate cortisol, because it's all a natural. Cortisol has also got a natural cycle, and it follows our natural sleep patterns. Therefore, this relates again back to having good sleep. Having breakfast within an hour of getting up can restore blood sugar levels that we've depleted during the night, and having an earlier lunch to prevent a large dip in cortisol are some of the tips on the timing of meals. Exercise will increase cortisol, so lighter activity is suggesting when healing adrenal fatigue. Walking, yoga, and gentle stretching are all good. And as far as food is concerned, choosing fresh whole foods, preferably organic, locally grown, and seasonal food for meals and snacks. Avoiding processed foods, with added hormones, artificial colours, and chemicals. So instead of alcohol, you could have herbal teas like chamomile, passion flower, or valerian, and instead of fizzy drinks, having a vegetable juice. Vitamins and minerals and micronutrients are essential for restoring adrenal health. They can help healing and provide extra nutrients to support proper adrenal function every day, and that includes vitamin C, E, and all the B vitamins, especially B5 and B help, which help to regulate stress hormones. Magnesium is also useful, as is calcium and trace minerals, such as zinc, manganese, selenium, iodine, which I've already talked about, and they will provide a calming effect in the body. However, I like to use herbals for supporting the adrenals, and these are called adaptogens. They can be very beneficial. My favorite is ashwagandha, but others such as Siberian ginseng, astragalus, rhodiola, schisandra, and licorice root can be amazing. So the bottom line is, with proper nutrition, exercise, relaxation, sleep, our body's natural rhythms will be supported. And by reducing stress levels, our adrenal glands will work in harmony with us, and our energy and vitality will be restored. So what is the key dietary message for today? Foods high in B vitamins, grass-fed beef, oily fish, free-range or organic eggs and poultry, and all kinds of green leafy veg. Foods high in calcium and magnesium, selenium and zinc all help to relieve stress and get better sleep. I've also mentioned dairy, avocados, wild-caught salmon, green vegetables, nuts and seeds many times in this talk. So I think this is the absolute essence of regaining your energy and vitality. You've probably noticed that I have stressed diet is so important. And it's not surprising, as it does impact our hormones, our neurotransmitters, sleep cycles, mood, outlook on life, motivation, and much more. I hope you've got a lot of things to think about out of this talk, because every one of us needs to look at our habits, lifestyle, and why we choose convenience over home-cooked food. And it is vitally important to give healthy eating a priority, which is really the very last take-home message. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Lorna Rhodes, and if you wish to find any more about how I work, my website is www.nutritiondynamics.co.uk.
If you enjoyed this presentation, then click on the link in the description to subscribe to our Nutrition Talks email list. And don't forget to click the like button and subscribe.